Alright, hey guys, welcome back for another week of new releases. I'm sorry I was late with this video. Honestly, I made a list and then I just wasn't happy with it, and so I wanted to go back and redo it. And then by the time that was finished last night, I just really did not feel like recording a video. And honestly, another reason why I didn't really feel like filming this video last night is because this week was super lame compared to last week. Last week was so much fun and it was awesome, and there was so much great shit coming out. And this week there have been some good releases, but I had to do a lot more digging in order to get enough together for this list. I did end up rounding up about 5 albums to talk to you guys about tonight, and number 5 on this list, I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right in. That is Solitude and Madness by Vader. And honestly, this is a Vader album. Like, it's everything that I would have expected from a Vader album. It's a classic example of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Honestly, yeah, it's pretty much what I expected from Vader. For me, it doesn't really measure up to their older stuff, but you know, it's a good album. I'm happy with it. It was a good listen. Nice. My number 4 on this list is Propast by Namid, and these guys are a band from Croatia that's playing some kind of like, I want to say they have like a crusty kind of like Swedish death metal thing going on, which is, if you guys were around in 2016 for their debut, a pretty big change for them. They were initially billed as like a crusty black metal band or something like that. I remember actually listening to their debut when it came out. 2016 was when I actually started doing new releases, although it wasn't on YouTube yet and it wasn't on my blog yet. And I do remember listening to their debut for this. And it was called Never Ending Struggle. And like I said, it was a kind of a big change from where they are now. They were a lot more black metal influenced than they are today. Today they're definitely veering a lot closer to death metal, although they do still have that crusty influence that makes them so damn lovable. I think this new direction they're taking with their sound is actually a really great move for them, because one of my gripes about their album back in 2016 was that I thought it sounded kind of generic. I ultimately didn't end up including it in my post for that week, if I can remember correctly. But this new shit with this kind of like death metal vein that they've adopted in recent years is a really good move for them, and I think it sounds a lot more authentic in general. And it's got some really fucking great cover art too. Props to whoever designed your album cover, guys. My album number 3 on the list is Entity of Undead Stars by Imperceptum. And this is another band that had their debut out in 2016, which again, I remember listening to back when I started doing new releases. And a lot like Namit, these guys are faring much better now 4 years down the road. Their whole thing is they're combining space-themed Atmo Black with Funeral Doom. But they've done a way better job than ever before of really melding that like cosmic black metal shit with this Funeral Doom atmosphere that they've got going on. They've created something that is at the same time cosmic and expansive, but super oppressive and dark. And it's just one of those things that makes me wonder why you don't see those two things melded more often than you actually do. Their most recent album makes this cosmic space black metal type of stuff blended with Funeral Doom seem like a natural pair. I think this is Imperceptum's most cohesive work yet. Anyways, that's Entity of Undead Stars by Imperceptum, and that was my number 3. My second album on the list for today is Beyond the Watchtowers by Ancient Burial. This is an interesting one because it's Portuguese raw black metal, and the members of this band are rumored to be from other more well-known Portuguese raw black metal bands. They haven't revealed which bands or which members of those bands form Ancient Burial, but it's pretty interesting nonetheless. Their themes are more about European Middle Ages and the medieval times and occult stuff, and kind of how we as a society have been able to sit back and kind of watch all of history unfold. When we look back at history now, from the future, we're also looking back kind of from our own temporal watchtowers as well. In general, that's something that I find very relevant to our current situation, because we are in one of those stories right now. This is great chaos music for the pandemic. It's a good reminder that we are in a time right now that people will be looking back on in the future from their own kind of watchtowers. It's some more weirdo shit. You guys know I love weirdo shit. Anyone who's been paying attention can guess what my number 1 album is for this week, because this was one of those releases that was just head and shoulders above the rest that other people have been talking about already, and I haven't mentioned it yet. So my number 1 for the week is Shadow of Life by Umbra Vty. When I first listened to this album, I didn't really have any background on it or context on it, and I was like, this is some weird kind of like death metal mixed with metalcore. And not like the modern kind of like Victory Records type of metalcore bullshit, but like actual metalcore like Converge type of shit. So imagine my surprise when I go and look it up and I do some research on it and I find out that it actually has Jacob Bannon on it. A lot of things made a whole lot more sense as soon as I saw that. But this project has members from all kinds of projects that you may know, and these are names like Job for a Cowboy, The Red Chord, Hatebreed, and Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, and many, many, many more. But personnel list of this band is Jacob Bannon, Greg Weeks, John Rice, John Martin, Mike McKenzie. And each one of these musicians is bringing their own thing to the table here in a way that totally makes sense and totally fits. Super enjoyable, it really kicked my ass this week. I do have a couple honorable mentions, or not necessarily honorable mentions, but just a couple more things that I want to mention before the video's over. And the very first thing that I want to mention is that another album came out this week that I can't really talk about. And that is because the mastermind behind this project is a friend of mine, and I feel like I can't talk about this without being biased. So that album is The Chaos Path by Salchu. His stuff is like super creative. It's refreshing, it's really experimental, and it's just like infernal and angry and intelligent in all the right ways. Go check out all the stuff that he's released. I'll put a link in my bio. The other thing I wanted to quickly touch on before this video's over is Whispering Oaths by Mnema. And this is a compilation from a Greek raw black metal band, and honestly, like, I was gonna include it in the list. I honestly was, because it was fucking great at some points. Like, they even had, like, a super solid groove that they were laying down on, like, track 2 of this compilation, and I was super into it. But then there's these other parts of the album that are, like, completely lukewarm and, like, totally lost me for a minute. Those of you who might be looking for this shit are people who are fans of stuff like Black Silice and Candelabrum. And I think a lot of the problems for this album are because it's a compilation, just because they're taking tracks from all these different releases that came in all these different time frames. But anyways, I wanted to include them anyways in case you wanted to go back and check out some of their other releases. So again, these guys are Mnema from Greece, and this is Whispering Oaths. That's all I have to talk about for this week. Thanks for putting up with me being a day late. Hopefully it was worth the wait for you guys, and I will see you again later this week.